Welcome, welcome. This is Donna Avery with BTTV. For those of you that don't know what BTTV is, we bring hope to the hopeless and the father to the fatherless. And today I wanted to introduce you to a really great friend of mine that I actually am so proud of how the Lord is using them because they are a powerful duo. But today we are going to be going with Tiffany Owens and her business and exactly what God has called her and her husband, Bryan, to do. So, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you, Tiffany.
Yeah. Tiffany. We are actually based out of Alabama, a little town called Anniston. And so it's obviously I love Alabama. It's fun. It's about to be fall, and I'm actually sitting in front of my window looking out and there's leaves falling, and I'm like, yay!
So, you're roll tide all the way. Got it.
Yeah. For sure. But a little bit about me slash us and I say us. So Nostalgia Media is mine and my husband's business. And we help other businesses, kingdom organizations really like really understand who they are and then be able to turn that into almost like marketable package to then like give out to the world to help build their own businesses and to help build their own organizations. Um, so uh so we do, photography. That was actually like kind of where I started was in videography and photography, and that's kind of um I would say the talent that the Lord just absolutely blessed me with because I have no like formal education in it. I just naturally it just I had a passion for it, started watching YouTube videos, figuring out how to do things, um, and somehow started being a photographer and people were paying me and I was like, "What is happening? This is awesome."
Now,
Um,
what year would you say that started?
yeah, so when people ask me how I get started, it was really random, to be honest. So I was in getting my bachelor's in college, and I was in my sophomore year and I was simply looking for a scholarship. Like that's literally all I was looking for. So I emailed, and this was in 2015, 2014, 2015.
And I love to hear what your bachelor's is in, by the way. Can you share that?
Oh, yes. Okay, so my bachelor's and my master's is in physical geography is like the, big part, but then I studied the climate and tornadoes. So
Nice.
I'm like a science geek. Like I have like the science part and the art part.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And we'll get to that in a minute because there's a whole thing with that. But so I was just trying to find a scholarship and I was in my sophomore year. So I literally emailed every athletic department and was like, "Hey, do you have any scholarship opportunities?" Like I was just trying to like wash their uniforms. Like I was trying to be a manager and just so I could get a scholarship. And the football team at Jacksonville State University, it's here in Jacksonville, Alabama. Um, the football team got back to me and was like, "Hey, we're looking for somebody to be on our video team. And you can work your way up to a full scholarship and stuff." And I was like, "Okay." And then the volleyball team also got back with me to be a manager. So I was like, "Okay, do I want to do video or do I want to wash uniforms?" It was I didn't know
Let
anything
me think.
about yeah, I didn't know anything about video though, so I was a little nervous, but so I went with football, and the guy who like did all the fun highlight videos filmed on the field and stuff, he basically like failed out of college. And my boss or whatever, he was like, "Does anybody want to learn how to do this so that we can?" Because we had to produce highlight videos like for the players to watch. And I was like, "I will." And so in 2015, literally working with the football team, I just started watching YouTube videos, started making videos, and that's how I got started in it. And then bought my first camera, started doing like random shoots for my friends, and then people like kept asking me. And then literally only like 3 months after having a camera, like I got a job at a local boutique taking pictures of like their clothes and models and stuff. And I was like, what is going on? Like it was like just crazy fast and completely random. I mean, it was cool.
It
The
grew
Lord.
fast.
I mean, it
Yes,
was, it's like it doesn't make sense, and you're like, the Lord's in it.
exactly.
It doesn't have to make sense. So, but yeah, so that's
Wow.
how I got started. That was 2015.
That is amazing. So once you did that and then you finished your master's degree, now how had you already met Bryan at this point? Like, where did it transition to where you're like, man, I am actually, this is growing so much that this is becoming a business in my lap? Or did it
Yeah.
actually feel like it took time?
So, I'll go back a little bit. Even before my master's, so while I was like working for the boutique, I started working for another. I was just doing a bunch of photos. And I tried filming weddings for a season, and it was fine, but I did not like it. And I thought that the only way that you could make money in media, in photography and stuff was to do weddings. So I filmed weddings and had to edit a bunch of wedding videos and decided like this is not for me. Like I didn't have a passion for it. So I was like, if I don't want to do weddings, I mean I can't make money, so I'm just going to go back to school. So that's what led me to go back
Ah,
and get my master's. Was like I want a stable job. You know, I love learning, like and I love geography, tornadoes. So yeah, and I got offered a scholarship. So I was like, yeah, bye. So I went on the route to get a more stable career.
I love
However,
a more
yeah,
stable
a more
career.
stable career.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to Baltimore, Maryland to get my master's. And while I was up there, I somehow got roped into taking pictures for the university. And I was like shooting all their sporting events. And I was like, man, I just can't get away from photography. Um, but kind of prior to that, I had the opportunity to go to Africa with a nonprofit organization. Actually, I'm so sorry. I feel like I'm like trying to put it all in like linear time. Let me back up a little bit. So I'm doing football, I'm taking pictures of clothes, I'm doing all this stuff, and I just remember asking the Lord, like, okay, this is great, this is fun, I have a passion for this, but like, what am I really supposed to be doing? Like, it's fun making highlight videos, but like, what am I really supposed to be doing? And I kind of felt like he told me that you're going to tell kingdom stories like through your camera. And I was like,
Awesome.
okay, okay, cool. What does that mean?
Details, please.
And then like 2 or 3 weeks later, I was approached to go to Africa with a nonprofit organization to literally video and take pictures and tell the story of what God was doing with this nonprofit over in Africa. And I was like, oh, well, this is awesome. Absolutely. I'm there. So, um, and it felt like confirmation and whatnot. So we did that. Um, I did that. And trying to think timing, but like in the midst of that, I had already applied for grad school and was like going. So I kind of was sort of running from what I thought I was, from what like the Lord was kind of like giving me this passion. I have this talent. He's kind of already told me you need like you're going to be telling stories with your camera. And I'm like, okay, but I'm going to go get my degree and have a stable income and make sure that I'm going to be paid,
I'll be over here. I'll be back when you're ready.
making sure I'm going to be making money. While I don't know, do it my own way. I don't know. Anyways, I feel like a lot of us probably go through that where we're running away.
Yeah,
So,
and it's interesting because I don't know if I had ever told you guys, but this is what me and Tim were when he met me. I had a full-fledged wedding photography and video. So Visual Testaments originally was exactly what you're talking about. So when you say I was thinking it was only weddings, I get it because I actually kind of had it fall in my lap through doing video for church. I mean,
mhm,
I was the camera girl that I was like the camera girl that followed the pastors that roam back and forth from one end of the stage,
yeah.
and everybody else is like, I can't follow him. You shoot it. So yeah, I get it when it falls in your lap, and then you're like, but Lord, clearly this isn't a business, so maybe I should just stay and do, which at the time for me was computer science. So I get
Mm,
it. You try and box it into what the world has shown us, really.
yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. And I knew that I didn't like love doing weddings. So like I knew that that really like I knew that that probably wasn't the path like ultimately. So I just like instead of I guess probably seeking or waiting, I just was like I'm not waiting. I'm going to school. Like I'm not waiting on you to tell me what to do. I'm just going to go to school. Um and I guess figure it out later. So that's what I did. Um And then while I was finishing up in Baltimore, I came home for the summer. I had 1 semester left. And during that summer is when I met Bryan. And I had already kind of planned to move back after I graduated, um, which I just feel like was the Lord orchestrating. So my original plan was after I got my master's, I was going to go back and get my PhD and be a professor and teach climate studies and tornadoes and physical geography. Like that was my plan.
That is so awesome. I mean, so you
Yeah,
guys hear it first, like Twister people, like she is
yeah,
the one you want to seek out for all the whole climate DNA.
yeah, yeah. Call me about the tornadoes. I got y'all. If you got any questions, and yes,
And I'll take pictures of your tornado when you find.
yes, yeah, and yes, we're experiencing more tornadoes in the southeast now. Woo! All right,
Awesome.
so um but after like talking a little bit more to my professor and stuff up there, I just kind of started second guessing. Like, I want to make sure that this is what I need to do. Like, because a PhD, that's another 4 years of school
Oh yeah, I'm
and a lot
sure.
more like.
Buy-in, literally. Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take a year off. I'm gonna take a year off. So that was my plan. So during the summer, I moved all my furniture back home. Um, and then the upcoming semester, I was just gonna like live in an Airbnb for 3 months, finish my semester, and then come back to Alabama. But during that summer, I met Bryan. So the year off was literally like our first year of dating. And so it was like really cool how that was orchestrated because like if I had stayed in school, I'm pretty sure I was looking to try to go to like LSU or out somewhere probably like Kansas, Oklahoma. Like I was looking to like go away. And
You'd have
so
missed him.
yeah. And so
Look at
thank the
God.
Lord that I took that year off and came back home because then like me and Bryan dated in that year and he had kind of like a uh an amazing experience. He went to a conference out at Transformation Church and it was their V1 conference. It was the very first conference they did. And I remember him calling me. I was in Baltimore still. Remember him calling me and was just like, I just experienced the Lord like I've never had before. Like it was insane. And he like I mean, I feel like in that moment he felt like or in that experience, he felt like the Lord just like gave him a passion for media. Like he didn't have it before. And then
Yep.
all of a sudden he was just like, I have this strong desire to do this. And I'm like, okay, like fabulous. I can teach you what I know. But And then he was like working at Honda. We have a Honda plant down the road, and he was like working at Honda doing some landscaping and stuff. And he was like, "Yeah, I think the Lord's telling me to quit my job and go volunteer at our church." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I'm a little bit more like
A realist.
logic. Yeah, I'm a little bit more like I think with my
She's
head.
like, but the Lord did not tell me.
Yeah, like, and at this time we were just dating, so it was just kind of like, well, you do you. I'm gonna still be making money over here. Um, uh,
While you're broke, okay.
yeah. And so he literally quit his job and started volunteering at our church, and that's how he met. So he has a separate business, it's just video. But his business partner, Brevel, he met him while volunteering at the church. And basically Brevel taught him everything that he knows about video.
Look
So
at that.
I mean, the Lord was just like, "Hey, go volunteer at the church." He literally did, and he ended up volunteering in the media department. Brevel taught him everything he knew, and now he's like on. I mean, he went on tour with Maverick City. He's actually on a movie set right now, in Birmingham, and I'm just like, well, this is cool. I mean, just
I
because
mean, look at
what if
God
he
when you
hadn't have
do
just
it.
what if he hadn't quit his job and was like, what
Right.
if you listened to me?
But
Apparently.
I get it. I get
Yeah.
it. I mean, and I love that. And don't worry, you guys, you're going to get to hear Bryan's story too, because they can tell you. I mean, you're going to hear it. It's phenomenal how God ends up bringing these two so forward in the media mountain. So then you guys meet, and he does all that. Now, meanwhile, how is your photography business doing? How has it grown at that point? And are you seeing where eventually this video option is opening up?
So at the time when he started pursuing media, I wasn't. Like, I was still getting my degree and planning to, like, I don't even know what my plan was. Probably, I guess, to find a job. I'm not even really sure. I was just gonna come home for a year, find like a job for the time being, and then like decide, okay, am I gonna go get my PhD, whatever. So there was like no plans to have my own business.
This is
Um,
awesome.
yeah. And then so I moved back home in January of 2020. Yes, graduated in December of 19, came back home in January 2020. I immediately, as soon as I got home, there was some local businesses that heard that I had came back home, and like called me and was like, "Hey, can you start taking pictures for us again? We're glad you're back."
That
I was
is
like,
awesome.
yeah, I was like, sure. I took a year off. I need to make some money. So I was like, started taking pictures for a local boutique, one that I had previously worked for before I moved, and started taking pictures for them. And then sent an email. I'm apparently an emailer. Sent an email to our county's emergency management agency because I was like, oh, that's in the realm of what my degree is. Did that just to intern, like just to see if I was interested in it. And they emailed back and asked me to come in, and then offered me like a job on the spot, like a part-time job based on like my abilities. And I was like, sure. And then literally March of 2020 happened, and everything shut down because of COVID. And I went like full time like in March of 2020 because of COVID.
You
And I was
went full time
with the EMA.
okay.
And I was their public information officer. So I did all the press conferences, I ran the website, I took pictures at all the events. Um, and then also there was they handle things when tornadoes, storms, things like that happen. So it was like a merger of my art side and my science side, like kind of coming together. So I worked there for like a year and a half. And in the year and a half, though, people kept asking me to do things like I would do weddings because like people knew me here. So then when I came back, they remembered me as doing photography. So I picked up social media clients, photography clients, we did weddings, and it just like kept growing and growing. And then me and Bryan had a talk, and he kind of brought up I think he did, one of us did, we had a talk and kind of tossed around the idea of starting a business together.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and I don't know. We just and then in 2021 in January, like we like officially started the LLC because we were having so many inquiries, like so many like a lot of weddings to be honest, because again, we were just thinking like, oh, that's how you make money in photography.
Yeah.
You know, you just do weddings. So we and Bryan really wanted to do weddings, and I'm like,
Now,
okay,
just to clarify there, can you explain to people who are listening? Because I totally know coming from this background, but to clarify so people aren't like, well, gosh, why didn't she want to do weddings? Can you clarify as a photographer in media why you were hesitant about doing weddings?
yeah, so weddings are amazing. Like they're the bride's biggest day. Um, and they really can be like a ton of fun. They're hard on like the photographer because they're 12-hour days or more.
Yes. Yes.
Um, and then that's mainly the, the issue.
Yeah.
It's just the day of, it can just be very like mentally stressful. And
Correct.
because you're nowadays typically you're having to also kind of coordinate the day too. So you're having to
Hmm.
like make sure people are where they are. You're running a timeline. You're also taking the pictures, and it can just be like mentally stressful. So
Yeah.
if you don't have the passion for specifically shooting weddings and working with
Yeah.
brides, it can just have a really big effect on your like mentality.
Yes.
And there's like people who love it and they love working with brides and they thrive, like they just thrive in that environment. And I just knew that that wasn't, I just don't think that that's where the Lord wanted me to be. And so it never felt right,
Right.
you know? And
Yeah.
so and when something kind of is off or doesn't feel right, like you kind of feel that tension. And I
You
always just
do.
felt the tension
That's good.
whenever we were doing weddings.
That's good.
And I don't think it had anything to do like people liked us. Like I never like showed up and was like, ew, weddings. Like I was always, hey, I can't wait. You know, I
Yeah.
was always like happy to serve the bride. Like there was no like animosity or anything like that. But when I thought about long term and previous things that the Lord had told me, I just didn't think that weddings were where we were supposed to go.
Yeah, no, and I love that you're bringing that up because I think a lot of times, especially with media, people do assume that it's just one niche in media, and
Yeah.
it's not. And to back up what you're saying, for sure, in all of whether it was sports photography, whether it was business photography, whether it was family photography or wedding photography, by far, hands down, exactly what she's saying about weddings, they can very much, not only are they long days like she said, but a lot of people don't understand. I think they understand media and how much goes into the back end work, and they really oftentimes have no clue. Not to mention, I can remember telling somebody at some point, like, you know, obviously, heaven forbid you miss the kiss. I mean,
Oh
it's
my
just
gosh.
so many little things. It's like you wake up as a
Oh my
photographer in the
gosh.
middle of the night and sweats. Like, I cannot miss the kiss. Like,
Did I
so
get
it's,
the right picture? Did I
did
get
I
every
get,
picture that she
yes,
asked for? Like,
yes,
there's
yeah.
such a high expectation that
There's
comes with
such a
it.
high one.
And so I think that there are people that are absolutely made to do it. And I know a few
Yep.
photographers around here that I'm like, she loves her job.
Yes.
And I love taking pictures. I just knew long term, like I didn't feel like that's the
That was
path,
your niche.
you
Yep.
know. I just didn't feel like that was the path. And so when you're not on where you're supposed to go, like I said, there's just tension. It just feels off.
Right.
That's kind of how it felt, majority of the time. But so, and you kind of mentioned a little bit. So I wasn't just doing weddings. Like I was doing weddings. I was working with businesses. I was doing family photos. I was doing portraits. I've taken pictures of dogs, like product photos. Like I was doing everything. And I think that that is nice when you're first starting out because it helps you understand like what do you actually like to do? Where's your passion at? Where's your passion at? And I quickly learned that I loved working with organizations and businesses that just needed help telling their story. I, I was just I started to realize that business owners and organizations and churches and they like have great stories, they have great things that are happening, but they have a really hard time conveying that to the public. Or they hate social media, or they don't know how to take a photo. So there's just a really big need when it comes to helping organizations like put their stories into the world, you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
I
I
knew that
agree.
that's where my passion lies. Like I love sitting down and talking to anybody about like even before we do any type of photo shoot for a business or anything, like I sit down and I ask, so why do you do what you do? Like who are you? Like like I want to know, it's not just about pictures. It's about like who the actual organization is and the pictures help tell their story. Like it's not just like, oh, I'm just snapping pictures. It's really about like who they are and helping them almost like find I've I've seen a lot of times it's almost like helping them find their identity
Yes.
and helping them understand who they are and then walking in that and putting it out,
Yeah.
you
I've
know.
watched that. That's what I love about watching you with this business is I've watched you sit down with people and take their DNA and bring it to life where they didn't necessarily have the lingo to communicate to you come in and you guys at Nostalgia Media seem to bridge that gap of taking what their hopes and dreams are and actually bringing them to life.
Yeah. And one thing that I'm like super passionate about and like I believe that the Lord created all of us to be a specific way. Like he created us to be ourselves. And so and to be who he created us to be. And so one of the big things that I like really push when I'm talking with organizations and business owners is like it's okay to be you. It's okay to be exactly who the Lord created you to be and helping business owners and organizations understand that it's almost like very empowering to them. Like a lot of time like I just recently had a client that she was like, well, so this is kind of the vibes that I'm like leaning to. I want this colors and I kind of want to do stuff like this, but I know that that's not very common in our area and in our industry. And I'm like, but this is you, right? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, you need to be yourself. You need to do like what, if the Lord's telling you to do that, or if you feel led to do something specific, like just do it. And she'll text me every now and then and be like, you kind of like you gave me the permission to be myself,
So good.
and I'm just like, well, I mean, technically it came out of my mouth, but I mean, I'm just like,
So good.
I just believe in encouraging and empowering business owners and organizations to just like be yourself. Like it's so easy to see what everybody else is doing, but just like be you. And I know it sounds so cliche, but it's
Oh,
like,
that's good.
I mean, there's so many times like another business owner, I send out questionnaires before I meet with them, and I asked her what her aesthetic was, and she was like, black, white, clean, modern. And I'm like, okay. Well, then when she sat down in front of me, I was like, she is not black and white and clean and modern. I'm like, she's like, probably has pink flowers all over her house and bright cardigans. And like, she just looked like she was cozy with a cup of coffee right before she came. And I was just
Yeah.
like, that's not you. And she was like, and she was like, well, I don't really know who I am. And I was just like, all right, let's talk this through. And so then basically I helped develop her brand identity, basically, and like who
That's
she was
beautiful.
as a person and as an author slash real estate agent. Um, but that's what I love to do is like empower people. It's okay to be yourself and then to help them understand who they are and then put that out.
So let's so as we transition, like what let's talk about that process. So you process the identity brand, you really bring out the DNA of who they are, you help them brainstorm in that. Which sounds crazy. You know, you would think that a lot of people and business owners already have their mission statement and their vision and their identity down pat, but you realize, you really do, you realize that they really don't. And I love that as a also a marketer, which you're phenomenal at, you really bring that foundation, because any photographer can come just come take pictures and it be
Yeah.
completely missing the mark of the target. So that's pivotal, but the process. So then once that's done and all the photos are shot, like what's your number one, what's your ideal, like you seem to cover a lot of business types. I love to
I
watch
do.
I love to watch the variety because you seem to attract so many different types of organizations. I personally know that you're phenomenal at even uh education mountain. So like what type of different businesses and organizations have you worked with?
So so clothing boutiques is where kind of like I started. And then when we actually like officially started our business, like LLC, we're paying taxes on it, like that type of thing. I attracted a lot of real estate agents, a lot of real estate agents. And I think that that has to do with the fact of how much real estate agents have to market themselves personally. And so, but then I've noticed lately, like there's so many, I actually really don't work with a ton of real estate agents anymore. Some, of course, but I mean, I work with dentists, restaurants, still do a boutique, a landscaper, trying to think, hair salons. I mean, it's just like it's all over, all over. I used to work with like a church and nonprofit. I do work with a nonprofit medical clinic, which is pretty cool. Um, so yeah, it's really all over the ballpark.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
So once that process is done and you've got that, like what have you seen as far as where God's taking nostalgia media? I mean, like what's your ideal business plan, if you will? It seems like he loves to wreck your plans, which is
Yeah,
awesome
I'm a little
in a good
nervous to
way.
answer.
I know, but like if you could, and obviously he can take it and run the ball with it
Yeah.
because you allow him to do that. But like what's your dream? What's your dream in the next year or so? What is your amazing client that you would love to be able to? I'd love an opportunity to express my gift through blah blah blah. What do you see yourself doing?
Yeah. So one thing that so we just built a new website, and the reason behind that was because I've started really wanting to push education. Like I love to teach. So like I would say that was like my first passion, like as a kid. Like I just love to teach. And I feel like the Lord has blessed me to be able to like see big picture ideas and like synthesize a lot of information and then like bring it down to a level where somebody who has no idea what is going, like no idea about that topic, and they can understand it easily. So I love to like teach. So with that being said, like I have this like, I'm nervous to say it because I'm like, Lord, if it's you. I hope
Come
it is.
on,
If not, just take it away, I guess.
come on.
Um I have a passion for building the online side of our business and offering a lot of educational materials.
That's
Like,
awesome.
um, like right now, like we have some freebies and like just teaching people how to find themselves, how to, because I mean, I can't work with everybody, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like I want to be able to empower others wherever to learn about themselves, develop their identities, walk in who they are, and, do what they're called to do. And so I've kind of been dabbling and working on some plans to like build that side of the business, like educational materials, workbooks, courses, blogs,
Nice.
things like that. Uh,
Nice.
so we'll see.
Nice.
It's
Let it
very,
be
very
so.
new. And I've seen the Lord really start to grow our social media side. I started out in photography and I feel confident in photography, but I'm noticing that there's such a great need for social media and I didn't expect it to go that way, you know? Um, so yeah, I don't know. I don't even really know
Awesome.
if that answered your question, but
Yeah, no, it did. It did. And I'm calling dibs on partnerships in the future. But yeah, I mean, like, I love that. Anytime you're going towards that uh educational route, I mean, there's always a need for, I mean, you yourself are a learner, so there's always a need for, especially in the media mountain, it's growing so fast and people are feeling the call to it. I mean, even before I came on with you, I was doing an educational Zoom basically
Mhm.
on helping someone who's being, literally her words, thrown into the media mountain. I mean, so much like you kind of got your feet wet with you going, I'm going to go over here and follow this cloud. But like the Lord's like,
Literally.
no, I need you over. Yeah, I need you over here. And so I just think, I just love your story because it's so freeing, I think, to people who get stuck and feel so convicted that they are walking through the university doors and they, what they thought they were spending all this money on for a degree is actually not what God's called them to do. So as we close out, like, what would you say to the person that's watching this and seeing how well you're thriving in your call and you're happy and you and God's growing it even into a wider direction? Like, what would you say to that person that feels like, man, but I feel like I've wasted time chasing this degree? What would you say?
That's actually something I've said myself. Um, like, I think what I would say though is that I don't believe anything's wasted. I don't believe that, even if you took a detour and you did your own thing or whatever, you know, ultimately you are where you are. Even, like I feel like there's a way that the Lord will bring you back to what He's called you to do, even if you take your own little detour. And if I'm just being transparent, I still even like kind of wrestle with okay, was I supposed to go to school? Was I not supposed to go to school? Because I'm starting to see now where me going to school, the Lord is using it. Like the Lord is turning that time into useful information. So like, no, am I in my degree area? No. But am I using a lot of things from my master's program? Absolutely. Like the way, like I learned so much there on how to write, how to synthesize information and teach people. Like I was literally a teaching assistant. And so I feel like even though I may have been running from what I was supposed to be doing, the Lord still used it. And so I don't necessarily believe that there's like waste. I feel like the Lord turns it obviously for our good and then, you know, uses it to our benefit to ultimately push his kingdom forward, to push his plans forward. Um, so yeah, just it's not a waste. Just keep
That's
going.
awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. No, I agree. And I can relate to that. I mean, we're in season and out of season and everything that we
Yeah.
do. I mean, it doesn't have to even, I love how you're walking out. It's not either or, it's both. And he can use it. He can pivot you however he
Yeah.
wants if you're willing. And I love that you guys are so willing to do that. And if I think from the outside looking in, when I see your guys's what you're producing, I really see that that's a result of you saying yes to the pivot. I mean,
Yeah.
you guys you're pretty fluid, and I don't. You can see a lot of areas where you make that mistake of being so rigid of what it should look like, and you guys are just in
Yeah.
flight.
Yeah, because I keep trying to like, do this, and then I'm like back over, like it's like he just kind of moves me back, and like it doesn't have to be a certain way. Like it's going to be
Yeah.
my way, being like the Lord saying that.
Yeah.
Like, and it doesn't have to make sense. Like it would make sense for me to just be a wedding photographer, because you know how much money I would make doing that. But it's not about that.
Tell it. Yeah.
It's about like follow I mean, your passion that the Lord's given you, the talents that he's given you, and using it the way he wants you to do it. Because like I said, I could easily be a wedding photographer.
Yep. I love it. And I think that going back to how good you are at listening to the Lord and saying, like this doesn't in the natural feel natural,
Yeah.
but you flow with it, and it brought you to who you're married to today,
Yeah.
like, and I think that whatever the Lord's using you for with this stuff could actually be connection building for the future.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, if you don't mind, as we close out, would you mind praying for those who might be looking at going into the media mountain or building a business, or are business owners?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes. All right. Well, Lord, just thank you for this time that me and Donna have been able to spend together and to talk about you and everything that you've done through nostalgia, through me, through Bryan. Um, and I do pray for the business owner that feels like they've wasted time or feels like they've gone um, the wrong way. I feel like that's probably, even though we didn't talk about it a lot, probably a big message that a lot of people need to hear, is that it it's not about being wrong or right. It's just about pursuing you and pursuing your plans for them. And even if they took a detour, like it it's not the end of their calling. It's not the end of
Amen.
where they're supposed to be, that you can bring them back to wherever they need to be. Whether that is building a new business, tearing down the business that they currently have to rebuild it the way that you need it to be built. Um, I just pray that you give them clarity and understanding and an ear to hear you, and the confidence to be willing to be vulnerable and to allow you to do the work in their business and allow you to build their business. Because if they build their business, they have to sustain their business. But if you build
Amen.
their business, you sustain their business. And
Come
so
on.
I pray for the business owners that are struggling for direction, clarity, where they're going. Are they doing the right thing? Lord, I just pray that you reveal it to them, and that they just continue to seek you no matter what, and that they allow you to do a work in their lives and a work in their business. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for sharing your story. And as we go, I just want to say, like, I mean, you have really inspired so much, even what we do, because I love to watch you guys go out and do exactly how Tim and I actually ended up meeting and doing this stuff. But it's so powerful to see how the Lord is using media and using couples to
Mhm.
go out and do it together. So that's such an encouragement to see you guys doing this and taking
Yeah.
this mountain.
Yeah. It's awesome. And another thing too, I think that just an encouragement to people, is that sometimes I would say I struggle between like, okay, well, like I'm not always working with like churches and kingdom
Yeah.
businesses and things like that. So it's like, well, am I do it, should I be? Like, is that all I should be doing? But then I'm reminded a lot of times that like being in the marketplace is a ministry. And
Yes.
so to the business owners who are not necessarily ministries, like you can still be a godly impact in people's lives. Like it happened to Bryan on a shoot. Like somebody just walked up to him and was like, I don't even know what they asked him. They asked him something along the lines of like, not do you believe in Jesus, but like it had something to do with like God and like being spiritual, and knowing the Lord. And he was like, why would you ask me that? And she was like, I could just see it on you and I just assumed and I just wanted to know. And I was like, see, like, I mean, you just do what you're supposed to be doing and you allow the Lord to shine through you, then no matter where you are, whether you're in a ministry or not a ministry, you're still doing the ministry, like
Yeah.
of the Lord.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know where that came from. Maybe somebody needed to hear it.
That they for sure did. They for sure
Oh,
did. Well, I thank you so much, and I look forward to all that the Lord is doing through Nostalgia Media. I just pray a blessing over all of it and you guys, and I really do see it growing so fast. I don't know if I should say that if it seems, but I really see it expanding hugely, and I think that it's a lot. I know that it's a lot because of your yes and your ability to not take what would look in the natural to be a dollar sign
yeah,
and know that your passion is not worth selling out for. So, thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
you are welcome.
So, if people want to get a hold of you, I'll put everything in our description, but also what's the best way for them to find you on platforms and get a hold of you?
I would say Instagram is where we're most active. And it's Nostalgia Media LLC. That's our Instagram name. And then we just created a new website, so I would definitely encourage people to go check it out. Like it's very thorough in who we are, what we do. Um, and that is nostalgiamedia.info. And
Awesome.
then we're on other
Awesome.
social media platforms, but I recommend Instagram. That's where we show up the most.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. Well, so you guys have heard it here. Make sure you go check out the new website and go contact them, connect with them, share their info to your friends, especially business owners that are looking for great photographers and video. They have it all. So thank you again for being a part of VTTV.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.